The deadline for players to withdraw from the NBA draft has officially passed, and we now know who will be staying in the draft and who will be returning to college basketball next season. And in today's video, we're breaking it all down. Let's jump into it. And to start us off, Michigan receives some big news as Yaxel Lendeborg is withdrawing from the draft and committing to play his final college season in Ann Arbor under Dusty May. And this is massive news for the Wolverines. Lendeborg was a projected first-round NBA draft pick by many and the #1 player in the transfer portal this cycle. He stuffed the stat sheet last season at UAB, averaging 17.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, and he does it all with athleticism, intensity, and incredible versatility. And at 6 feet 9 inches, he's a do-it-all forward who can handle the ball like a guard, create for others, dominate on the glass, and guard multiple positions. And whether he's finishing lobs, stretching the floor, locking down on defense, or initiating the break, Lendeborg is an absolute game changer. And with this news, Michigan just solidified itself as one of the top teams in the Big Ten and a Final Four contender. And Arkansas got some big news of their own as Karter Knox is withdrawing from the NBA draft and returning to Fayetteville for his sophomore season. The 6'6" wing played his best basketball late last season, helping lead the Razorbacks to a Sweet 16 run. He averaged 8.5 points per game on solid shooting splits his freshman season, but over his final 10 games, he turned it on, averaging 11 points per game on 50% from the field and nearly 38% from three. And that late surge has him projected as a first-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft, and in my opinion, he could possibly be a lottery pick with another strong year. And this move instantly makes Arkansas one of the favorites in the SEC next season, as Knox is one of the most highly touted returners in all of the country and is poised for a massive role with the Razorbacks. But just hours before the deadline, another Arkansas wing made it official that they will not be returning to college, as Adou Thiero is staying in the 2025 NBA draft and foregoing his senior year at Arkansas. Thiero is one of the most explosive athletes in this year's draft class, boasting a 40-inch vertical and a 7-foot wingspan. He averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds for the Hogs last season after transferring with Coach Calipari from Kentucky and showed flashes of elite two-way potential. And though he missed some time this season, Thiero still drew interest from teams picking late in the first round of the NBA draft. He's a slasher with a powerful frame and elite defensive tools, but his shooting remains a major swing skill. And if he figures that part out, he's got 3-and-D potential written all over him. Arkansas fans would have loved one more year with Thiero, but this is probably the right move for him as he's got a real shot to carve out a role in the league. And the Kentucky Wildcats roster is absolutely loaded this year, especially after Otega Oweh announced he is coming back for his senior season with Big Blue Nation. After testing the draft waters, the Wildcats' leading scorer officially withdrew from the NBA draft and decided to return to Lexington for one more run. Oweh broke out in a big way last season after transferring from Oklahoma, averaging 16 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.5 steals, and shooting nearly 50% from the field en route to second-team All-SEC honors. And his return is massive for Mark Pope, who already reloaded the roster through the portal and the recruiting trail after losing 4 starters from last year's team. But with Oweh back in the fold, Kentucky is shaping up to be a preseason top 5 team with legitimate Final Four and national championship aspirations. And Oweh makes them just that much better as he's one of the top returning guards in all of college basketball and gives the Wildcats an experienced star to play around. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kentucky making a deep run next with how dangerous this team looks on paper. But one of the most exciting players in all of college basketball is returning as Tahaad Pettiford announced he is running it back at Auburn. That dynamic 6'1" guard has officially withdrawn from the NBA draft and will return for his sophomore season, instantly boosting the Tigers' ceiling for next year. Pettiford had a strong showing at the NBA Combine and was even projected as a potential first-round pick by some, but now enters the season as a clear 2026 first-round prospect. As a freshman, he was one of the best young guards in the country, showcasing a combination of deep shooting range, a deadly floater game, and gritty two-way play. And with the expanded role he will likely have next season, he's a preseason All-SEC first-teamer, a legit SEC Player of the Year candidate, and should be in the All-American conversation. And this is massive for Bruce Pearl and Auburn, as Pettiford gives them a true number one option and superstar talent to lead the way, with the Tigers looking to get back to the Final Four next year. And Auburn also landed a key international addition in the portal with the commitment of Serbian forward Filip Jovic. The 6'9", 20-year-old comes from KK Megabasket, where he averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 1.5 assists on 57% shooting in the Adriatic League. Jovic brings a physical, SEC-ready frame and high basketball IQ, with most of his scoring coming around the rim. He moves well without the ball and has the potential to become a real threat if he can develop a reliable jumper. And Jovic will be an instant contributor to a loaded Auburn frontcourt, as he's projected to play some heavy minutes for the Tigers next year. But it was Auburn's rival that had the biggest surprise at the deadline, as Labaron Philon is officially returning to Alabama for his sophomore season after withdrawing from the NBA draft in what is a massive win for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide. Philon originally said that he was all in on the NBA draft and was a projected first-round pick with lottery-level talent. But now he brings back elite shot creation, downhill driving, and playmaking that Alabama desperately needed to go alongside its perimeter shooting. The 6'3" guard averaged 11 points and 4 assists as a freshman with the Crimson Tide, and showed flashes of brilliance with his speed, huge boost for Alabama's national title hopes, giving them a dynamic lead guard capable of taking over games, and this decision puts the Tide right back in the mix in the SEC. But maybe one of the most important returners is Florida Gator big man Alex Condon, who has officially withdrawn from the NBA draft and is heading back to Gainesville, which is massive news for the defending national champs. The 6'11" big man was a key piece in the Gators' title run last year and will play a huge role in their hopes of repeating next season. Condon was projected as a mid-second round pick in the draft, but decided to return in hopes of winning another title. And last season, he averaged 10.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.5 blocks while being named third team All-SEC, but his impact went way beyond the box score. He's a playmaking hub at the 4 or the 5, running offense through dribble handoffs, switching on defense, and bringing relentless energy as a rim runner and rebounder. And his feel for the game, intensity, and versatility make him one of the most valuable returners in all of college basketball. In an era where keeping your front court intact is rare, Todd Golden somehow pulled it off, and that's a big-time win. And this move means that Florida is locked in as a Final Four contender again and will more than likely be a top 5 team heading into next season. San Diego State also had some big news, as Aztec star Miles Byrd is also returning for his junior season, as he officially withdrew from the NBA draft. And this is huge for Brian Dutcher and the Aztecs, who now retain one of the most versatile two-way guards in the country. Byrd averaged 12.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists last season, while showcasing elite defensive instincts, racking up 2.1 steals and 1.1 blocks per game. He's a high IQ defender with active hands, long arms, and the motor to turn defense into instant offense. And offensively, Byrd flashes serious playmaking creativity and has continuously improved as a shooter and showcased this at the NBA Draft Combine. And with another year of development, he's tracking as a potential first-round pick in the 2026 NBA Draft. And his return is a game changer for San Diego State this season, who look poised to be a top 25 team once again. Houston point guard Milos Uzan also withdrew from the NBA draft and is returning to the Cougars for his senior season. Uzan was a breakout star during Houston's run to the national title game and will once again be the floor general for what's likely going to be the number 1 ranked team in the country to start next season. The 6'4" guard averaged 11.5 points, 4.5 assists, and 3 rebounds last year, while showcasing elite playmaking, high IQ decision-making, and relentless defensive energy. And after transferring to Houston, he took his game to another level, especially by sharpening his jumper. And he was projected as a second-round pick in the upcoming NBA draft, but ultimately decided to return to college. And with Uzan back, Kelvin Sampson retains his starting point guard and team leader, and Houston is now loaded, hungry, and firmly in the national title conversation once again. But as a result of Milos Uzan heading back to Houston, Pop Isaacs decided to flip his commitment from the Cougars to Texas A&M. And this is a major late cycle pickup for Bucky McMillan and his staff, who continue to build a strong foundation in College Station leading up to year one. Isaacs is a 6'2" scoring guard, averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in just 8 games last season at Creighton before undergoing season-ending hip surgery. But if he's healthy, he's one of the top scoring threats in all of the SEC next year and brings proven high-level production to the Aggies' backcourt. Isaacs was ranked among the top 50 players in this portal class and becomes the 5th 4-star transfer A&M has landed this offseason. And this is a big-time move that helps raise the ceiling for what Texas A&M can accomplish in year one under Bucky McMillan. And that wasn't the only big news the Aggies got, as Mackenzie Mgbako is withdrawing from the NBA draft and transferring to Texas A&M for his junior season. Mgbako was a projected second-round pick who turned heads at both the G League Elite Camp and NBA Draft Combine and brings size, skill, and scoring ability to College Station. At 6'9", he'll be the most pro-ready player on A&M's roster next season, and a strong year under Bucky McMillan could push him into the first round of the 2026 NBA Draft. This is yet another high-level portal win for the Aggies, who continue to stockpile talent. And with Mgbako and Isaacs on the roster next season, it's looking like Texas A&M is a likely NCAA tournament team in year one for Bucky McMillan. And although there were a lot of players that decided to withdraw from the NBA draft and return to college, we did have some that decided to stay in, and Florida State's Jamir Watkins is one of them, as he is keeping his name in the 2025 NBA draft after a standout season and an impressive showing at the NBA Combine. The 6'6" wing with a 6'11" wingspan averaged 18.5 points, 5.5 rebounds per game, showing off his two-way versatility and elite feel for the game. Watkins had entered the transfer portal as a fallback option, but after strong performances against elite competition solidified his stock, he decided to stay in the NBA draft. And currently, he's mocked in the mid-second round, and he's a legitimate candidate to rise higher on draft night. Watkins is a switchable defender who thrives in modern NBA schemes, and his ball handling, slashing ability, and IQ allow him to initiate offense and make plays in transition. And NBA teams covet wings like him who check every box, that is skill, toughness, size, and defensive range, and if his jump shot continues to develop, he will be a potential steal in this year's class. Another player staying in the NBA draft is St. John's RJ Lewis, which ends one of the most closely watched transfer sagas of the offseason. The Big East Player of the Year and All-American out of St. John's is going pro after averaging 18 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.5 steals per game, while leading the Red Storm to their first outright Big East title since 1985. And at 6'7", Lewis is a versatile wing with NBA-ready size, strong defensive instincts, and the ability to slash and score from all 3 levels. And had he returned to college, he would have commanded a massive NIL deal and was rumored to have been pursued by blue bloods like Kansas, UNC, and Villanova, among other teams. Instead, he's betting on himself and heading to the pros, leaving a major void in the portal and giving NBA teams an intriguing two-way wing to watch and could be a late second-round pick. And maybe one of the biggest stories out of the draft is Penn State's Yanic Konan Niederhauser, who is staying in the 2025 NBA draft after skyrocketing up boards with a dominant pre-draft process. The Swiss 7-footer was a breakout performer, showcasing elite athleticism, fluid mobility, and rim protection that has teams eyeing him as a potential first-round pick. At 7 feet tall, 243 pounds, with a 7'3" wingspan and a 9'3" standing reach, Niederhauser led the Big Ten in blocks and was the only high major player to record at least 50 dunks with a block percentage over 9. He fits today's NBA perfectly as a rim-running, shot-blocking big who thrives in pick-and-roll and transition situations. With explosiveness, defensive instincts, and surprising skill for his size, Niederhauser looks like one of the biggest risers in this year's draft class and could be a potential steal for whichever team takes him. And even with all of the NBA draft decisions that are happening, we had even more commitments out of the transfer portal that were made over the past couple of days, but none were bigger than Kansas State landing a commitment from AAC Player of the Year and consensus All-American PJ Haggerty after he withdrew from the NBA draft. Haggerty was third in the nation in scoring last season at 21.7 points per game and brings elite offensive firepower to Jerome Tang's backcourt. He's a prolific 3-level scorer with a deep bag, including floaters, mid-range jumpers, crafty finishes through contact, and has proven he can create his own shot at will. Haggerty also dished out nearly 4 assists per game, showing his ability to playmake as well. While his initial $4 million NIL ask reportedly turned some schools away, he'll join K-State on a deal around $2.5 million and have the opportunity to be the guy in Manhattan. And this is a blockbuster addition for the Wildcats and immediately elevates their ceiling heading into the next season. Gonzaga landed a big-time scorer of their own out of the portal in Grand Canyon transfer Tyon Grant-Foster. The 6'7" wing was previously the WAC Player of the Year and averaged 17 points per game over the last 2 seasons, where he helped lead Grand Canyon to back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. He has proven he can score the ball from all over the floor and bring size, athleticism, and defensive versatility to a Gonzaga roster that definitely needed it. And while he won't have the same isolation-heavy role he had at Grand Canyon, his ability to take over games and drop 20-plus on any given night will be a weapon for Mark Few next season. And assuming that his waiver for eligibility is cleared, this will be a major late-cycle addition for the Zags and one that can help going into next year. And lastly, Duke has landed yet another rising star as 4-star forward Sebastian Wilkins, who was a top 30 prospect in the 2026 class, has committed to the Blue Devils and decided to reclassify to 2025 and join the Blue Devils this upcoming season. Wilkins chose Duke over Maryland and is the latest addition to what is now the Blue Devils' second consecutive #1 recruiting class. At 6'8", Wilkins brings a versatile offensive game, rebounding ability on both ends, and switchable defensive upside. He's a spot-up shooter with developing movement skills and excels attacking the rim with long strides and soft touch. And while his decision-making remains a work in progress, Wilkins plays within the flow of the offense and doesn't need the ball to make an impact, and he's one of the biggest stock risers nationally, and his upside as a 3-and-D contributor makes him a strong fit in Jon Scheyer's system. And with all of the transfer portal and draft decisions, there is only one available transfer left in the top 100 of the transfer portal rankings, and that's Desmond Claude. Claude is a 6'5" transfer guard from USC and is one of the top backcourt names to go into the portal this cycle after averaging 16 points, 4 assists, and 3.5 rebounds per game on an efficient 48% shooting last season. A 3-level scorer with elite athleticism, Claude has drawn interest from major programs like Tennessee, Oregon, and SMU. Alabama was originally in the mix, but the return of Labaron Philon has likely closed that door for the Crimson Tide. And Gonzaga was also a potential landing spot, but with Tyon Grant-Foster now transferring to the Zags, that fit seems less likely. Claude's recruitment is shifting quickly as teams reassess their backcourt needs, and especially with him being the only big name still left. But wherever he lands, Claude will bring an explosive scoring punch and the tools to be an immediate impact guard at the high major level. And with all of the NBA draft decisions and transfer portal movement, we will be dropping our official way too early college basketball rankings here soon, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And if you enjoy the content, please make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.